So Twitter is the gift that keeps on giving, and I have to question if people are genuinely like this or they're being disingenuous. There are arguments to support the disingenuity. So this whole thing with King Kong being racist started where a YouTuber did her analysis, which is like, it's just my opinion. Trust me, bro. And she said that because this movie was done, I think, in the 30s, right? So, like, America was racist in the 30s, then obviously this movie is an allegory to, like, scare white men that black people are trying to steal their women or some shit. Like, I'm sorry. It's difficult to tune in. Like when you have this level of brain damage and you genuinely, unironically say things like this, I kind of lose you. You know, you have me for a little bit, but then you lose me. But apparently, like, that was enough to get people to unironically believe that this is the case without any sort of critical thinking, without any sort of logic. It's like, okay, well, if America was genuinely that racist, why would they have to use metaphors? Like, why couldn't they just make a movie where it's literally that? Why create something that can even be left to interpretation? Like, if you're genuinely, like, trying to spark some propaganda and to moral panic and fearmonger, why not just use, I don't know, like a black person that just does what you claim the movie director wants them to do? Like, it makes no sense, right? So, that is the first thing. The second thing is that King Kong, the movie, is actually so good because it tries to make you empathize with the monster. Like back then, most movies had just like a clear cut, you know, good versus evil. There were very few villains that had shades of gray, especially not when you're talking about a giant creature. For those of you who don't watch cinematography, like, there was this huge trend with, like, big monster destroying the city. It was like a huge array of titles that did that back in the day. Like, you'd have like a pterodactyl, or you'd have like a giant centipede or something. You know, it's coming into the city and is destroying all the buildings, and the good guys are trying to escape and fight it. So like, those movies were not what sets King Kong different than the other movies. Besides the acting, is the fact that you actually do empathize with the monster. Like, he is taken out of his own volition from his territory, from the island. He is being brought by force into New York, and, you know, he does what he knows what to do. I mean, he's King Kong. Like, he's an ape. Like, he just climbs buildings, and this scares people, right? So like, the whole thing that the movie is trying to teach is, like, humankind is evil. It's not even like trying to say, oh, this is the white man doing it, because, like, when you watch the movie from China, like, most Chinese people will get like, no, this is like humanity taking something from its natural habitat against its will. Like, when I watched the movie, I wasn't thinking like, oh my god, it's like the white man does this, or I wouldn't even think like it's the American doing it. It was an escapism. Like, back then, they made movies for escapism and entertainment, something that modern people on Twitter just failed to understand and grasp. So, you know, going back to why I think, like, most people are disingenuous is because by saying ridiculous shit like this, the person went viral. So now people who are on both sides, like people who unironically believe that King Kong is racist, even though, like, if Disney would make a new King Kong readaptation, they would still go and see it. And then you have, like, the people like myself who are claiming, no, you're insane, I'm sorry. The King Kong is not an allegory to anything. It's just an interesting story. Now, because the argument is there, you know, King Kong is trending, and the person who made that video got a lot of subscribers to her channel. And by the way, like, hate views are still views, right? So even if people are hate watching the content, and they just want to hear, it's like, okay, well, how insane can this argument get? Like, there is no way someone, oh my god, they actually did say something like that. And this is why it's difficult to me to believe that these individuals are genuine honest. Like, this is not the type of conversation that you would have with your mother over the dinner table. And if you did, people would consider that you completely lost the plot. And of course, secondly, is the fact that you're telling me that for all this time, like more than 70 years, no one brought up this point. Like, no one figured out, no one who was watching King Kong considered that to be racist up until you figured it out on YouTube. Right? Like, there are black people who like the movie for what it is, and they don't think that's an allegory to anything. Right? Like, up until this point, if you look at the fandom of the movie King Kong, or when you went and you saw the recent one in the cinema, there were black people there. Like, why would they watch it if it was like propaganda that was trying to get white people into a moral panic and a frenzy? Doesn't make any fucking sense. But like, we're going to ignore the reality. We're going to ignore all these arguments that can be made in order to say that, yes, it's a racismus. Clearly. Not to mention, like, if you were to replace King Kong with Godzilla, would that make it okay? I mean, because that's another interesting trope, you know, like the woman being captured by the monster. It happens in pretty much all of these movies where you have like the huge monster destroying the city. So are those allegories for shit? Like if a pterodactyl manages to kidnap the white female lead and puts her into a nest, is that also racismus? My fucking god, it is what it is. You know, these are the same individuals that play Dungeons and Dragons and they see the orcs and it's like, they figured it out. Like, how is it that no one else up until today manages to figure that shit out, but they're like, orcs, I figured it out. King Kong, I know it. Jesus. So, as you can see, like, the conversation is like, I refuse to watch anything by the girl who said King Kong is a racist diatribe. Like there are people who, like, are legitimately catching on, and they will not watch the YouTuber anymore. Because, like, we know what you're doing. It's obvious. So King Kong is a racist diatribe. Have you watched the fucking movie? Right? This is like how the conversation is going. It's just like back and forth with the assaults, and stuff that I don't know. Like I genuinely like don't even know why people do it. Like I guess if you want to get clout because you're a content creator, it kind of makes sense. But like, why do you waste your time, energy, and effort? Because like, there's no way you're going to convince the leftist that he is wrong. Like, I'm willing to bet, like, the leftist probably doesn't even give a shit if King Kong is or isn't a racist diatribe. But they want to say the stuff that will give them a standing ovation from their peers, right? So, like, when they go back to their Discord, they'll be like, look what I said to this right-winger, and everyone is like, you're so good. A little bit more. If we only had, like, more people like you, we would end racismus. If you only could clone yourself and more people would say this shit to right-wingers, racismus would be over. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing, and a whole line of interesting things, because this is why you now have Dungeons and Dragons trying to remove the word witch from their video game, and then they're trying to remove the druid class and other shit like shaman and stuff. It's because people like this are being given oxygen, really. Like the more you interact with it, the more you discuss it, the more viral their videos go, like the more you're going to get. If you don't interact with it, if you don't pay it any attention, then they're not going to be able to fan the flames, and they're going to be just like talking into the ether with no one caring. But anyway, right, let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.